Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video I'm going to talk to you about the 72-hour clock. So you may recall from other videos there's two types of Baker Act. One is involuntary and one is voluntary. So we're going to presume this is an involuntary Baker Act for the sake of this video, and specifically we're going to talk about the 72-hour clock, which is supposed to be running during the 72-hour period. So the last week we've had a couple of calls from people saying, well, my loved one has been Baker Acted, I'm going to wait until the 72-hour clock has expired. And so my team asked them, well, how do you know the clock's even running? I mean, did you sign any paperwork at the facility, or did you sign any paperwork at a hospital? Oh yeah, we signed paperwork. Well, do you know what it was? No, I don't know what it was. We never read it. We just were told sign here. Well, if you signed a voluntary admission agreement, even if you didn't know it, guess what? There's no clock ticking at all. Zero. It's an indefinite hold if you are there on a voluntary basis, and you may not even realize that your loved one is on a voluntary basis. But let's say, for sake of argument, that you are there on an involuntary basis and there is supposed to be a 72-hour clock ticking. First of all, how do you know that it's actually ticking? And what I mean by that is, that's what the law says, that's what the statute says, that's what the Baker Act statute says, but because nobody knows that your loved one is there, and you can't sue them for any of this stuff, how do you know the facility is actually following the law? How do you know that the clock has even started to tick? Oh, and by the way, if you were at a hospital, or your loved one was at a hospital beforehand, until they get to the receiving facility, the actual facility where they're supposed to do the assessment, and the clock's not ticking at all anyway, even if you're involuntary. So how do you know the clock started to tick? How do you know that if the clock has expired, that the facility is going to let your loved one go? I mean, they don't have to. I mean, they could file to keep them. And so my point is that you are trusting the facility that has locked up your loved one, arguably in violation of their statutory and constitutional rights. And now you're telling us, well, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to trust these people to do the right thing. And my question is, why? Why would you trust the people who have illegally detained your loved one to actually follow the law when nobody knows they're there, there's no oversight, and if they don't follow the law, you can't sue them for this at all? Unless, of course, your loved one gets injured. That's a different story, because they have a duty to keep him or her safe. But if you are hoping that the facility is going to follow the law because that's what the law says, I'm sorry to tell you that you are playing a very dangerous game and hoping that the facility will let your loved one out. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't seen my video on red flags, one of which is your loved one has health insurance, you might want to take a look at that, because if your loved one is detained and they have health insurance, and potentially there's an allegation of medication being taken, I would say the chance of them getting out are somewhere between slim and none. But if you're willing to take that chance, then that's up to you. I don't tell clients what to do. I know what I do because I've been there with my loved one, and I know what I did do to get her out. I also have been there with about 500 other families. I know what I did to get them out, which was we fought. And my recommendation is always to fight, and fight as soon as your loved one gets detained. But if you decide that's not what you're willing to do, and you want to, trust the facility to follow the law and all these other things, that's your choice. But just make sure they're actually following the law, because they may not be. Chances are they're probably not, which is why your loved one's being held illegally in the first place. Anyway, with that said, see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.